This is such an intense and value-packed conversation that I just had with BV Jagadeesh, a Silicon Valley angel investor. You'll get to learn his story of coming from a South Indian village, moving to US, and then becoming an angel investor. In the 2000s, he built and sold his startup for $325 million to Citrix, and then went on to help the up-and-coming startups in the Silicon Valley space, including Nutanix. He set up his own venture firm called as KAAJ Ventures, as well as recently started Silicon Valley Squad. I've asked him so many questions in this video. Go take a look at the timestamps. You'll get to learn so much about building a startup, raising funds, getting to profitability, and everything in between. I hope you'll enjoy this video and get to learn something from this. Hit the like button and subscribe, share this video with your friends, and now let's get into the conversation. Hello sir, thanks a lot for joining us here and taking out the time out of your busy schedule. How are you doing there?
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Ishan, for having me.
Awesome. I don't want to waste any more time. My first question to you would be, what is your journey been like, right from the time you graduated from your college, then getting to work, and then, working with startups, advising them, and then getting to build your own companies? How has that journey been like for you?
Journey has always been very, very exciting. I've always been a dreamer, right from the college days, and always like out of the box sort of a thinker. And I ended up doing an internship in Bombay when I was doing my master's, which is what was the turning point of my life. And that's what actually helped me to come to the US. And if you think of it, back in 1979, I got an opportunity to work on microprocessors. I mean, this is in India, right? Microprocessor terminology itself was being so new at that time. I was like very fortunate to actually get into this internship, which helped me to work on this microprocessor back in 79. And then I worked for a company in Bombay itself, again in the microprocessor field, Intel. And then I came here in 1982 and never looked back after that.
What exact companies did you start working in, and what was your learnings from working at companies?
So when I did that internship, I was fortunate to be working with this PhD from Case Western Reserve University. And it was a very small, young startup kind of a company in Bombay. It's called Bombay Electronics. And because of the fact that I worked so closely with the founder, that time itself, it started to occur to me that someday I got to start my own business. And then when I came here, it took me about 10, 11 years to settle down, to become financially independent, and have some money also saved, just in case my own entrepreneurship journey, if it didn't work out, that I have a way to fall back. So I have enough money to support myself and my family. And I gave myself about 2 years of time to try my dream to pursue this entrepreneurship. And the thought process was, if it didn't work out, then I would just go back and look for another job in the industry, right? But luckily, when I first started my company, it was in 1993, a company called Exodus Communications. And the way we started was quite different compared to the way how it eventually ended up. Again, during this entrepreneurial journey, right, you have to be looking for opportunities, and you have to be looking for different things to see how you navigate and re-navigate. And that's what happened to us. And we created these data centers, which became the internet infrastructure for all of the companies that you can think of, right? Whether it's Google or Amazon or eBay or Microsoft, every one of those was our customer at that time. And in fact, in 1999, when Bill Clinton was the president, he actually named Exodus Communication as a national asset. I mean, think of two of us coming from India, starting the company and becoming like an internet backbone, right? For the entire world, carrying almost like 45% of the world's internet traffic, and then being named as a national asset. That was a pretty phenomenal feeling. And I think we could do that being here. I don't know whether we could have actually succeeded back in those days to accomplish a similar kind of thing if we were to be in India.
You have been in the Silicon Valley for a very long time. What do you see happening right now in Silicon Valley? You know, a lot of startups are getting tons and tons of funding. The valuations are off the roof. What do you think is happening right now, and how has it changed after the pandemic?
This is kind of like think of like a drama being played, right? So this happened even in late 90s as well. This valuation thing basically happened during the late 90s. So this is well before you guys were born, I guess. And there was this thing called the dot-com crash. So there was a boom, dot-com boom. And then when people realized that this is not, the dot-com is not going to realize the way they all expected, then there was a crash in 2000. So about a year and a half before the crash happened, then this whole valuation was literally crazy at that time. And the way the valuation was set at that time, at least today, there is a lot of reason behind why the valuation is so high. But back in those days, it was all just a dream that you start an internet company and the valuation is based on how many people are going to come and visit your site. It's what is called as the eyeballs, right? How many eyeballs will come? So, you know, for example, in your case, you have 400,000 users, right? Or 400,000 viewers that visit your site on a regular basis. And that's a pretty big number. So if you were to do this back in 1998, you could have easily got like $1 billion valuation at that time. So today, it's a drama being played, but it's not as bad as it was in the dot-com crash era. So there's a lot of fundamentals that people look at. There is a lot of different aspects of revenue growth, how big the market is. And what has happened today versus 25 years ago is that proliferating into global markets can happen just like this today, right? Which was the assumption in which the valuations were given in the late 90s. The assumption at that time was you start an internet company and then within a year or two, you could potentially become a global company, right? But nobody thought that China did not have internet infrastructure. India did not have internet infrastructure. Africa did not have internet infrastructure. There was no mobile phone, right? And desktops were not there. Internet was not there. But today, you literally, you know, the entire world they have all these smartphones. That means you have a supercomputer sitting in your pocket, right? And most countries have phenomenal internet connection. I mean, look at, you are sitting in India right now. There is no difference. I cannot even tell the difference. The clarity of the video is so good, right? Coming all the way from India, you just cannot tell the difference today. So that is how things have progressed. And that's what provides the opportunity for good products, good companies to overnight become global.
Right. You know, a lot of people are comparing crypto and Web3 revolution with the internet revolution that happened back in 1990 to 2000. What is your views on this? And what do you think about this whole new revolution that has started with Web3 and, you know, blockchain and crypto?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Web3 is really going to revolutionize because of the way how, I mean, if you look at, you know, Web2, how security became an integral part, right? Because when the web came out, security was a separate entity. So in fact, everybody, back in those days, at the time when we were deploying the first version of the web, security was not even thought about, right? It's only when small problems started to occur, then we used to actually put the security firewall in the router itself, which was a very simple kind of a solution, firewall kind of a solution. And only then the next set of the firewalls started to evolve. But when Web 2.0 came into picture, security became an integral part. That means anything you do, security is built into it, right? Security, performance, user experience. A lot of those things were sort of built into the Web 2.0. The Web 3.0 is really pushing this to the new levels with all this blockchain, distributed systems. All of that is going to be built into it. And that is how the next version of the internet is going to grow. And cryptocurrency, there is a lot of hype around that. And I think it's going to go through a similar kind of ups and downs. But conceptually, the cryptocurrency has a lot of value, right? It just makes people who travel from one country to another country, they don't need to worry about currencies. They don't need to worry about various other aspects. It becomes so much more easier. Of course, there are a lot of people who think that cryptocurrency will enable underground economy, right? And which, by the way, was true even when internet came into existence. There was a lot of underground economy that started to happen. And then, a lot of those things actually settled down. And same thing will probably happen even with this cryptocurrency as well. But as it starts to hit the mainstream, as more and more people understand and start trading the cryptocurrency and then start using it, right? So that will become the norm of how we all live in the future world.
Totally. What does your day in the life look like as an angel investor, as when you're trying to interview startup founders? What does your day in the life, what does your morning routine look like?
Morning routine is very, very interesting for me. I actually get up at 4:15 and I start my spiritual aspect of the day at 4:30 to 5:30, and then 5:45 to 6:45 I do 1 hour of yoga, and then I have a wonderful tennis partner who comes in, and then we both drink chai and go for tennis, and by 7:45 8 o'clock I'm back. I would have already finished 3 different things by 8 o'clock, and then I take shower, have my breakfast, and I'm ready for the meetings with full energy starting at 9 o'clock. So from 9 to 5, 9 to 6, either it's a combination of reading, catching up on different kinds of things, or meeting with entrepreneurs. Pretty much every day I will have like at least 2 new entrepreneurs that I meet. And I have personally myself, I'm involved with 15 to 20 companies between US and India. And at least I will talk to 2 or 3 of them on a daily basis.
What do you look for when you're trying to invest in a company? What factors contribute to you taking a decision to invest? And a lot of people wanted to know the answer for this question. Many people also think that, IIT, IIM degrees, Harvard degrees is what is really important for you to get a step in the door to get funded. What do you think about this?
Well, I think at any point of time, having a great pedigree will always help, right? Because somebody else has done the filtering. So somebody else has already done some level of filtering. So like an IIT entrance exam or your own BITS entrance exam. By the way, I have funded quite a few BITS Pilani founders as well, right? So
Wow.
yeah, it does help. That pedigree actually helps, but that's not the only qualification. So after that comes, how flexible you are, how capable you are in understanding the market, how well can you communicate the story, how in the most simplified manner can you articulate the story. Because being an entrepreneur is not just being a technical guy, right? Because you have to translate your idea and then start selling to everybody, starting from hiring employees to investors to customers to partners, including even your own family. If you are working 24/7, you have to sell this to your family as to why you're spending, because you're not going to have immediate results, right? It's a lot of agony when you are building the company, and you have to justify to your family as to why you are spending that kind of time. So there is a lot of selling that you have to do, which means you need to have that ability to tell the story and be a leader and inspire all these people to join your bandwagon, right? So that is what we look for. We look for an entrepreneur who is a good storyteller, who can translate this idea into expressing in a very simple manner, and show the ability to, navigate during these difficult times. Because everybody goes through, when you start your company, it's a minimum 6 to 8 year cycle, right? It is not a 1, 2, 3 year cycle. It's a 6 to 8 year cycle. And when someone like me, when I'm investing in a company, I am working with you for the next 6 to 8 years, whether you like it or not, right? Whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, we both have to be working together minimum 6 to 8 years, minimum. I mean, I funded a company in India, Bombay, called NetMagic Solutions in 2000. And that company exited in 2013. So that's a 13-year journey. But when you do that journey, both become like lifetime partners or lifetime friends.
Right. Naval Ravikant also says that play long-term games with long-term people.
Exactly.
Right. So what is the most important skill that you think people should be learning if they want to build a venture, or if they just want to have a great career in life?
I think ability to see problems in the market, in the industry, right? And figuring out, based on that problem, can you, or combination of several of you, can you solve the problem, right? So, and that problem should not be like a very simple kind of a fix, because a lot of times when I go to these universities, the kind of problems that they pitch, it just makes me feel so sorry about it, right? Especially, people in IITs or various places where they have all these competitions, and I get called to judge these things, and it's kind of very pathetic to see the kind of problems that they pick, right? Why not some fundamental issues? I mean, I can understand the exposure that many of the students have at that time is so limited. So that is why it's important to get some experience and see in the world what kind of problems exist. And for those problems, can you and your friends, can you solve the problem, right? And is that a large market? Is it a large market so that you can actually translate this into a sizable business? So that's what makes it interesting, both you as an entrepreneur, as well as me as an investor, or people like us as investors.
Let's just say I come up with a startup idea. I think that this is a problem that is important to solve. How should I go about evaluating my startup idea to see if this is something pursuing for the next 5 to 10 years of my life?
Get it first and foremost, right? Get it vetted out. Yeah. In fact, I teach a class on entrepreneurship. In fact, these are all the things that I in fact talk about in the class, right? So when you come up with an idea, go and get this thing validated. Who do you get it validated? The first and foremost is who you think would be the customer for this product. So you have to have an idea, right? If let's say I'm building the next best TV in the market, who are the customers going to be? The customers who have TVs today. So those are the guys. And then you figure out if yours is going to be a very expensive TV, you cannot be talking to common people day one, right? You have to be talking to the potential buyers of this TV who can afford to pay little extra, right, for this TV. So go talk to these people saying that this is what I'm going to offer in this TV. These are the additional functionalities that I'm going to offer. Would you be willing to buy? Would you be willing to pay $1,000 more for this TV? You see what I mean? So get it validated by the customers who are going to be using this product first. And then go talk to some investors who are willing to put money in your company. Go and get it validated from these people. So don't just sit within four walls, think of an idea and think that you have solved a big problem. You have to get this thing vetted out as much as you can. Make cold calls, send emails, right? Connect people through LinkedIn, and write customized emails to all these people, and you will get response, right? If you send 50 such emails or LinkedIn messages, I bet you 10 to 15 of them will start responding back. So you yourself will get the confidence at that time. Hey, I'm also a sales guy. I can sell this, right? So that's the first step in validating your idea. And once you validate, then you start figuring out, how do I architect this? How do I design this, right? What is the user experience going to be like? Is this going to be very easy to use? Look at other products, the type of user experience and the user interface these products have that, right? So,
Right.
so if you look at Google, there is only one thing on the Google screen. It is so simple, so straightforward. That's like the ultimate user experience.
So one question that many people have been asking me is that, why do people invest in startups that are loss making for a very long time? Like if you know about Cred, they are spending crores and crores of rupees and they end up earning in lakhs. Why do people invest in such startups? And everyone is puzzled about the same question.
No, it's a very important question actually, because as an investor, I don't know the company that I'm investing in, whether it's going to fail or whether it's going to do very well. I don't know. So for example, when I invested in Nutanix in 2011, 2012, I didn't know that that company is going to be a unicorn. It's going to be a multi-billion-dollar valuation company. I had no idea, right? In every entrepreneur, you bet on exactly the same principles that I just articulated before. And eventually it comes down to how well you build the product and how you take this product and start selling to the customer. That is where the entrepreneur difference starts to happen between one entrepreneur to the other entrepreneur. This is what I was trying to explain, right? That whole ability to navigate. Some people, when they take this product to the customer, they start to feel, hey, this product as is not going to sell. I have to make some changes to this product. And some entrepreneurs think, no. I know I've built a great product. I'm going to sell this, right? Even if the customer is saying no, I'm going to try to convince the customer to look at my product. So that is where the difference comes. So the one who figures out very early that this product doesn't resonate as is, I have to now make some changes to the product and then bring it to the market. Or I have to think who the buyer is. This is not the buyer for me. I initially thought this is the buyer, but this is not the buyer, right? So an entrepreneur that eventually ends up becoming a mediocre or fail is the one who convinced himself that he has built a great product and he doesn't want to listen to the customers. That is where the difference comes between a successful entrepreneur and a mediocre or a failed entrepreneur. And when I'm investing, I don't know who is going to be successful, who is not going to be successful. And the way these things work is, if I invest in, say, 20 companies, right? With all of them, I enter by investing with exactly the same principles that I said. Look at the entrepreneur, look at the story, look at how well the entrepreneur talks about it, blah, 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 all that stuff. I make the same decision. But when things eventually pan out after 7, 8, 10 years, 2 companies of the 20 will become blockbusters. And they will return. If you invest $1, they'll give you $100 to $200. And another 7 or 8 companies will probably give you somewhere around 5 to 8x, right? And another 4 or 5 will probably give you your money back. And another 7 or so will be like the companies that you are mentioning, will just go under. So when that happens, my total fund, if it's, let's say, it's a $100 million fund, when I finish this game with 20 companies that I've invested and the returns happen like that, the $100 million will very likely be $300 to $400 million.
You talked about reading books. Reading books has had a huge impact on my life as well. As you can see in the background, I have tons of books that I love reading. What books have you enjoyed reading the most, and what would you recommend for people to start reading if they want to learn more about business and just learn about how the world functions?
See, the first and foremost book that you should read is this book called Crossing the Chasm. I don't have it here right now, but this is a phenomenal book, which when I first read the book, when I was building my company in 1996 timeframe, 1996, 1997 timeframe, honestly, I felt as if like this author has heard my company's story and then he has translated that into a book. It's a very simple book. Everybody should read that book. Everybody should read that book, right? And then the other one is, this is actually a very interesting book. The Hard Thing.
Right. I love reading this one as well. Ben Horowitz talks about his journey of building businesses.
Yeah. And the other book that always fascinated me is this author called Thomas Friedman. He has written a book called Thank You for Being Late. It's a wonderful book. The title itself is pretty fascinating. And yeah, you know, I mean, who would come up with a title, Thank You for Being Late, right? That itself will trigger the radar antenna as to, man, how can anybody name a book, Thank You for Being Late? And it's fascinating, the content of this book as to how the author visualizes this whole concept of the fear that people have that when artificial intelligence comes into play, how it's going to throw away millions and millions of jobs, right? And in fact, at one point of time, a lot of the high net worth individuals in US were thinking about creating this thing called a social fund. And for those who are going to lose their jobs, they wanted to create this fund. From the fund, they'll pay some sort of a welfare salary to all these people. And it's not going to happen, right? So if you read that book, he will give you examples after examples. In fact, personally, myself, I have seen when computers started to enter human life, in India and all, there used to be strike that used to happen. Because the fear for people was computers will come and they'll start taking away all the jobs. So that means all the people will start losing jobs, and people are protesting the acceptance of computers, right? But that did not happen. As a matter of fact, computers helped actually create a lot more jobs. Not only it brought a lot of convenience, but it also helped create a lot more jobs, right? Same thing with bank ATMs. When bank ATMs came, everybody thought, oh, you don't need branches anymore. So the statistics is that banks ATMs came, more and more people are using the bank, more branches actually got opened up, and more people are employed with these things. So the problem actually shifts, which means the human race has to evolve from basic things into more knowledgeable or knowledge worker over a period of time.
As you are investing in companies, what sector are you most looking out for? What do you think are the biggest problems that need to be solved in this decade?
So personally, myself, you know, I've always been fascinated with infrastructure and enterprise software, right? Always, that is my core competency. That is my thing that I really enjoy, because I can also visualize these problems, right? And because of that, personally, I've been involved in mostly infrastructure, cloud companies, and enterprise software kind of companies. And even in the enterprise software, a lot of them are enterprise software infrastructure companies, right? So that's the kind of companies that I personally myself am involved. Although now, bunch of us, we have come together, you know, this logo that you see called the SV Quad, or the Silicon Valley Quad. So a bunch of us have come together, and we are now investing about $3 million in every one of the early stage companies. And we have a couple of my partners, they actually understand consumer companies. So one of the companies that we have funded is a company that came out of BITS, Pilani, called the Flam.
I know they are the seniors of my college. I have talked with them.
Yes. So we have funded that company, and we have funded another consumer company as well. Although I am not on the board of these companies, but I'm like closely watching, right, as to how consumer companies are built and what are the metrics that is being seen when you're building the consumer companies versus the infrastructure and enterprise software companies, which is what I'm very familiar with.
I want to talk about education in general, right? Do you think college education is going to be important going forward? A lot of people end up just dropping out and then they start learning the technology or whatever it is that they're passionate about through books, through courses, and then they go take up jobs because they have projects. Do you think this is going to change, or what exactly will happen? Also, one more question I had is that how important is an MBA for building a business as a startup for anyone who's looking for, starting a venture?
Basic education is absolutely important, in my opinion. There are always anomalies in life, right? There are always anomalies. Always. Anything you do, there will always be one or two people who will be exceptional, right? I'm pretty sure even in your own class, there'll be a couple of people who, without studying, they'll be acing, and lot of others will be like struggling very hard to get that kind of grades. But that's just an anomaly. It doesn't happen all the time. Same thing in business, right? There is one Mark Zuckerberg, there is one Bill Gates, there is one Steve Jobs, but that doesn't mean everybody can do what they have done. So the normal path, and all the rest of the companies were all built by educated people. Whether you take Google, whether you take Cisco, whether you take Oracle, every one of those companies were all built by people who had good education, people who worked in the industry and understood the problems, understood the challenges, and then they went on to actually build companies, right? So which is the norm that I was explaining to you earlier as to how you see the problem and then you apply your skills to go solve the problem. So if people think that by dropping out of college, then I can become a Mark Zuckerberg, then they will regret very quickly that it is not going to happen that easily, unless they're one of those anomalies. And it could happen. It could happen for 1 out of 1,000,000 people, right? Nobody can guess that, nobody can predict that. But they are different breed of people and they could potentially do it. But the norm is not that. Personally, that would be my opinion. Is MBA necessary at all? No, actually it is not. I don't have an MBA. MBA, in my opinion, is a very common sense thing. You have to observe things very carefully, right? So just because you're a technical guy, you cannot ignore the finances, you cannot ignore the business aspect of it. If you naturally show the inclination to also understand the financials and the businesses, a lot of these things are all common sense approach. How do you manage people? You don't need an MBA to learn that. You bring your personal passion, humility, all of that as to how do you manage people, right? Yes, MBA will teach you a lot of those skills. How do you negotiate? That's a common sense. When you have, in order to be a successful negotiator, you have to have enough knowledge. So you have to really understand 360-degree view of everything that's going on. And that comes with how much research that you do before entering into a negotiation table. How much have you learned about everything that's going on around you? That's common sense. You don't need an MBA for that, right? In fact, Dhirubhai Ambani, the father of Mukesh Ambani, when someone asked, because he didn't have an MBA, by the way, when someone asked him, do you ever regret that you did not get an MBA. You built an empire, but do you think if you had a MBA, you would have done even bigger than this? You know what his answer was? He basically said, I'm so glad I didn't do MBA, because if I did MBA, my thought process would have been just streamlined. Somebody else would have made me to just streamline my thought process. So because I was not an MBA, I was able to think out of the box. I was able to take wild risks and inspiration from others, and then go and execute the way I have done it. I don't think I would have done the same thing if I had done MBA.
Got
Most
it.
most entrepreneurs are not MBAs, by the way.
I want to talk about happiness. What has given you the most happiness in your life? And many people have this question: how does happiness increase as your net worth increases? With time. What is your views on this?
I think, in a way, I was very fortunate that I came from a small village, and I studied in the village, in the government schools in the village, up to my 7th standard. And then I went to the city for my 8th standard onwards. And in a way, I was very fortunate to have been in the village, and I'm still in touch with my village. I still visit my village, and we have done many, many things in the village, like schools and water, and many other projects we have done. So I believe that if you create a balance in your life between creation of wealth and distribution of wealth, right, for the right causes. And when you become an entrepreneur, not only, when you become a successful entrepreneur, not only you would have made a good chunk of money, but you also would have built a lot of experiences. And that experience, if you can bring it to the other part of the world, other part of the issues that the society is facing, that will do wonders in terms of how not only the money that you have made, you can start applying to social causes, but you can also inspire many others who are sitting on the sideline. Because what I have noticed is a lot of my friends who have made significant amount of money, they don't know how to donate because they're very suspicious. So when they see someone like me being involved in the social causes, they actually feel a lot more comfortable. Hey, this guy is not going to steal my money, right? If I give money to this guy for the causes that he's serving, I know it is going to be used for real good purposes. So personally, the biggest happiness that all of us can derive is if we can create a balance between the capitalistic world and the social impact world. If you can do that, if you are in touch with the world that could be uplifted because of you, and each family, as you pull that family out of poverty cycle, it brings you tremendous amount of joy.
What work are you doing that is dedicated towards social and philanthropic causes?
So we are doing multiple things. One is we've been very closely associated with Akshay Patra, which provides the midday meal program. And that's a program that very much inspired me personally, because the schools that I was going to, children used to drop out to work in the fields, right? To get 2 meals per day, the children used to be pulled out to do the work. And providing this midday meal program makes children to come to schools. In fact, a lot of my classmates in the village who were a lot smarter than me, they all got dropped out. They did not pursue. And I was fortunate that my parents were educated, and then they, with all the challenges and difficulties, they put me through the education process, right? And so that's why we work very closely and support the Akshay Patra organization. The second thing is we build rural schools, especially schools that are completely dilapidated. So it's like really coming down. which makes it very scary for the rural people to go to schools. And I think bringing children to the schools is a first and foremost important step. So building these schools would help 300, 400 of these children to come to schools. In fact, every one of our schools, after we have built the infrastructure, the school capacity actually has gone up. So from 200, 250 people, it has gone up to, some schools have gone up to 650 students. So it makes us feel really good about it, right? And the third one we do, this is the engineering college that I went to, because it's a government engineering college, the fees is very low in that college. And because of that, it attracts a lot of underprivileged children. So now what we do is we provide complete scholarship to about 250 students. And for many of them, we even provide the boarding lodging as well, because a lot of these children come from various parts of Karnataka into Bangalore. The college that I went to happens to be in Bangalore, and they come from rural parts of Karnataka. And for many of these students, we provide hostel facilities. We provide enough money for them to stay in a hostel, books, and all of that. And here I have seen, because it's engineering college, personally, I have witnessed the students that we have given scholarship for 4 years. At the end, in the 4th year, when they get a very good job, right, that pays them a very decent salary, and the joy you should see, because their parents would never have seen that kind of salary that the kids would make. And every time when I ask, what would you do with this money? The first thing they'll do is they want to support their immediate family. So this is how you pull people out of the poverty cycle.
Awesome, sir. This has been a really insightful session for me as well. And I hope that is the same for the audience that is watching this video till the very end. I just want to ask you one last question, and that is, you came from a village and now you're doing well off in Silicon Valley. What is the one biggest advice that has really changed your perspective about life and building wealth in general?
So the thing that I always talk about, Vidya knows this pretty well, is this acronym of the equivalent of the GPS, the acronym of CPS. I believe in this thing called C stands for consistency, P stands for perseverance, and S stands for self-driven. So anything you do, first of all, you have to be consistent in whatever you do. It cannot be a one-time thing, right? If let's say you want to lose weight, you cannot just do exercise for 1 week and then think that you're going to lose weight. No, it won't happen. You have to do that on a continuous, consistent basis. Perseverance is, life will be full of ups and downs. Life will be full of challenges. And when you hit those ups, don't get carried away. When you hit the down, don't get depressed. So have your own dream and be persistent. Believe in yourself and be persistent in winning. S is self-driven. Nobody need to tell you what you should be doing. Nobody need to inspire you, right? You should be inspired yourself. You should drive yourself. Look up to others who have been successful in life. Look up to others. Success doesn't mean making money, right? There are many ways you can actually become successful. So money making is not the only way to become successful. That's just one way. But look at many of these successful people across different spectrum and see what is the path that you want to take, and be self-driven in achieving. So this is the theme that I follow, that consistent, perseverance, and self-driven. And just like how GPS for different people takes them to different routes or different destinations, right? The journey for each person will be different. I am different, you are different, she's different, other person is different. So my journey will not be the same as your journey or her journey. Everybody's journey will be very different. But the path to make that happen, to whatever eventual goal that you have, the CPS is the common factor. And that's the values and that's the principle. If you follow, then it will take you to whatever destination you want.
Awesome, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you so much for giving us the time. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Very, very nice. Great.
So that was a video. I hope you got to learn something from this. If there's one thing that you learned, let me know in the comment section. If you're still watching, just write I watched till the end. Share this video with your friends. You can tag me on social at Ishan Sharma 7390. And that's all for today. I'll see you in the next video.